All right, we're back after a week off.
Yeah, covering the biggest football stories, but we're going to be covering mostly the promotion today because there's nothing going on in football. I mean, the spring game in Michigan occurred. They're starting to wrap up spring games, but most importantly on the calendar is the spring evaluation period is beginning, and that's extremely important. So the link is myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo. Um, yeah, so we were talking off air about what you get for the year. So example, because you were talking about um, you know Carson Rauner, the quarterback from Nebraska who just got a Navy offer, right?
Yep.
And he was with us, and initially when we did the 6 month program, or the 6 time program, one promotion each month, and his dad, as a 2024 quarterback from Nebraska, he doesn't get a lot of attention. He's not going to be noticed. He's not from California or Texas or Georgia or Florida, whatever. And there was a little bit of panic. I don't know about panic, but it's a strong word. But there was some stress. He's not getting the attention, and all that stuff. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we kept putting him out there, kept putting him out there, kept putting him out there. He just got his Navy offer. Now things are going to start. Once Navy offers in other schools, we'll start to look at him again, see what we missed, what did we miss, blah blah blah. So you were talking off air about how it's a crawl with the 1 year promotion that we have now, which is so much different from what we had, with the 6 times and the 1 time and all that stuff. I was talking to a kid yesterday, and he went to his parents and he asked them about it, and they said it was very inexpensive, which he's right. I mean, he's one of the few that actually comes back and says this is cheap compared to what else is out there, because everything else is out there is more expensive. So it wasn't a cost issue, but he was like, I think I'm going to wait until my season because I'll have more varsity film. I split between varsity and JV last year. And I said to him, I'm not trying to be rude. That makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. This is a year long. So if you hop in April, you're here through next April. So guess what we do? We promote you from April to your season. You get a head start. Then when you get new film on varsity during your junior year, we promote that. Then we promote you into the spring. It's a year. There's no waiting. There's no need to wait. I get before when it was the 6 time, you don't want to waste the 6 times maybe leading up to your season, which I still think is the off season is more beneficial than the in season for recruiting. But now there's no point. You get a year. We're going to start in April. We're going to go May. We're going to go June. We're going to go all the way through the calendar. So I think he's going to sign up for sure, but there's still some confusion out there as to what timing needs to occur. So I think you labeled this what? The art of recruiting?
Yep.
So talk about the calendar a little bit.
So April 15th, correct me if I'm wrong, is when the colleges are able to start coming out on your campus, doing their evaluation period. They can appear at events. I mean, below FBS, they can appear basically at everything anytime, right? But FBS can appear at things during the week, basically Monday through Saturday. And then below that can pretty much do whatever they need to. This calendar time period is the time that you really have to push, because the window goes April 15th to May 30th, right? Or what?
Right at the end of the
31st,
beginning of June.
Right.
Beginning of June,
right.
Yep.
So, so it's a 6-week window that when they're deciding on places to go, coaches to stop by, schools to stop at, you want them to be on top of mind. And that's why this promotion is such a big deal at this time period. Obviously, we talk about like how having an ongoing thing is so important. But right now, this is an opportunity to get in where now they're going to stop in, do an evaluation on you. And some of the things that, like in the art of recruiting, one of the things I think is really important is, heck, they can watch you. You can go after school onto your field, okay? In most states, you have to do it without your coach, but some states maybe you can. But you go on the field, and you can, let's say you're a quarterback, you go throw to your receivers. The coach could be standing there right in the stands watching you throw and get an in-person evaluation, because that's one of the things that actually can be done. As long as they don't physically sit there and have a conversation with you, they can watch you and evaluate you. And you want them to visit you at your school. Okay. Now, on the flip side of it, right, a lot of kids think that the high school coach is going to do this for them. Are there high school coaches that do that? Absolutely. There are guys that definitely take an interest in it, and their players do a ton of stuff for them. There also are a lot of coaches that are teachers, coach 3 sports in high school. If they're even if they're the head football coach, they're responsible for this or that. So their time in recruiting gets strapped. This becomes another assistant for you. This becomes your assistant coach. We become your assistant coach to help promote you through the social media promotion throughout the course of the year. So it will end up assisting in everything. If your coach is doing a ton of stuff, great. It'll only add to it. If he's doing a little bit, but he's strapped on time, he can only reach out to a few places here and there. This will be a huge benefit for you, because no one's going to have the following that me and Mike have. You're talking over 1 million plus followers. I was just going through it because I was sending people to this All Northeast camp that are running April 16th. And I was going through some of the players, you know what I mean, that I was inviting, and just looking at their followers. And the coaches that were following them, it was like 7 out of 10 followed me, of these college coaches. Like they follow, and you might be 9 out of 10 if I was going through yours, right? It was so high amount of college coaches that are following what we're doing, and the kids that we're putting out there, we're talking about. That is the way in today's day and age for you to get out there in assistance to what you're doing on your own.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too is like these are not, Alabama, it's always fun to brag. Saban's not on social media, but it's always fun to brag that Ryan Day from Ohio State follows me, or Steve Sarkisian at Texas follows me, or Mike Norvell at Florida State. That's fun, right? And they do that because they want, to know what the 5 stars and 4 stars are thinking and saying, and what rumors I have there. But most, the people that are important to you in this program are the FCS coaches, the Division II coaches, the Group of 5 coaches, and that level. And those guys all follow. And now they're starting to follow more. I'm getting a lot more followers from smaller schools than I ever had before. Because, before I was never mentioning Georgia Southern, or had a kid that they might be interested in, because they're going to take, what's left over in the state after the SECs and the ACC is done. So now we got more followers. The other thing to this spring evaluation period is this is the last one, the way it's been structured for the last many, many years. And by that, I mean, there's changes coming. So the NCAA is going to change the recruiting calendar because it's become so untenable for coaches to keep up with things between the transfer portal and NIL and all this other stuff. So the changes that are coming next spring, and these changes will also go into place probably heading into this football season. They haven't been ratified yet. Coaches are going to be able to talk to recruits at their schools in the spring for the first time ever. Sit down, have a long conversation. That's going to hurt kids who need this program, because they're going to go to your school and they're going to focus on 2 or 3 guys that they want, and they're going to have long conversations. So now with the bump, and the bump is like, say hi, have a brief conversation with them, but it's mostly evaluation. Next cycle, they're going to be talking to these kids, and they're not going to pay attention to anybody but. So let's say a school has a couple of Power 5 kids, and then a few kids that might need our program that are Group of 5 FCS. They're going to get ignored even more. They're not even going to get evaluated, because they're going to be spending so much time, hours on end, talking to this 4-star kid that they want to come to their school. So this program is kind of it's, as the calendar shifts and the changes, coaches are now going to be allowed to talk to kids in the spring. Coaches are now going to be able to offer kids earlier than ever before. It used to be September 1st of your junior year. That's being bumped up. They can offer earlier than ever before. They're going to be able to have more evaluation and in-person chances during the football season. There's going to be the ability to do in-home visits for assistant coaches during the football season. All of this is good for coaches and it's good for high-level prospects. It's bad for kids who need our program because all the focus is going to be on these new changes and they're not going to waste their time on kids. So they're going to be looking for layups even more and more. So they're going to be looking for like an Amari Grayson, Bubba Grayson, who came through our program. We've got West Virginia, has some group of 5 offers. They're going to be looking for those layups because now they're going to be spending their time talking to the big name kids. So this is it, April 15th through June. The thought is in my mind is with this 1-year program, you sign up now, maybe we get them to go to your school. We're not going to contact the coaches, but maybe we'll put you out there quick enough where they make your school a stop. If they don't, you're going to need us more than ever. Like if they
Right.
don't stop at your school, then you're really going to need us because after June 1st, everything just dies down. It's college summer camps and it's vacation time for coaches. They're still recruiting, but they're not going to be recruiting you as actively. So that's when you really need June 1st, July 1st, August 1st, those times you're really going to need us. So I think the timing of this, you're going to need us at any time of the year, whether it's November, April, July. And with the year, there's really no bad time to sign up. So I get the cost point is difficult. I get that people can't afford it at this point in time. And,
Well,
and to me, it's
I'll make it affordable. So this is the first time I'm putting it out there. I will create. So we have the year-long program where they pay up front, and we'll do payments for you. But I'll create, if you do the year-long program, where you can break it into monthly payments. Now it's a year commitment, but I'll create where there's availability for monthly payments. So if you guys that are talking to me or Mike and you're going back and forth, I'll create that for you if that's something you need. Now, look, there's a big discount. Obviously, if you do, you're saving $300 doing it up front. But for those of you can't, everybody's in different situations, right? We'll create a monthly thing where it's just basically like a gym membership. You go and you sign up. Every one of you guys are training with a trainer at $200 a month here, right? Now we're talking $129 a month, $129.99 if we break it into payments. If you do a year long, it's $1,000. You save $300. But if you need the monthly payments, that's probably $80 cheaper than you're paying to go train all year long, monthly somewhere with a trainer, and at the end of the day, you still have to go and get your name out there recruiting wise. So to me, I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, and I tell people, I mean, listen, the best thing to do is to try to get, 1,000 for the year up front. It's going to save you the most money. It's the best bang for your buck. Or if you do the 6 month, 600. But if you do need a payment plan, and I've talked to a few people about this, and I've talked to you about it, can you set up a quarterly for this? And I got another individual where I'm going to ask you to set up a quarterly as well, or a 2 payment instead of 1 lump payment, whatever.
Right.
It's going to cost you more to break it out. That's just the way life is. I mean, at Rivals, we had a 1-year subscription for $100, pay up front, and that was renewable every year. Or you could pay, $12.99 a month, and pay a lot more, but you would break it out into months or whatever. So, or I think it was $10 a month or something. So it's $120 a year. That's life. That's with everything. Everything. The longer car payment you have, if you go 72 months instead of 60, you're going to end up paying more. If you have it, pay it up front. But so what's happening, it's a little bit less and less, as far as the cost issue. At first, it was like we were getting lumped in with a lot of other companies who were asking for a lot more money. So it was kind of neat. The kid I spoke to this week, and I spoke to his parents, they were surprised at how cheap it was. And honestly, it's insultingly dirt cheap. $1,000 for a year. They're getting so much, and the cost should not be any, there should be no prohibitive value in the cost, because you're going to be in a better spot a year from now than you are now, 100%. And I'm not, doing money back guarantee or anything like that. I just know that that's going to be the case. We get, Cash Ferris is a kid in Arkansas, DB. He signed up. He's gotten invitations to camps that he would have never gotten invitations to. Now it's on him, to get out there and prove his worth to the schools. It's on him to keep talking to the schools. It's on him to keep training and getting better, bigger, stronger, faster, whatever. But he got offers that he would never get to camps. And that's something that immediately saw a dividend to that. Some kids are getting more followers. Some kids are getting direct followers, like the linebacker coach at Stanford. Some kids are getting, blanket offers to camps. And I advise them to reach out to a coach to see if you get an individual offer to a camp, and all that advice is free. But like I said, to me, we do so much work. Like, how it is. Like, I do my fifth or sixth video on a kid, and I'm like, geez, we're only making this for this. This is it's not a lot of money. But the goal here is to help as many kids as possible, make this a volume business, and then have it become, I'd rather, in the world of McDonald's versus Burger King or whatever, I'd rather have a good 50-cent burger that I can sell to more people than to have a $1.99 premium, which sounds great, but it's the same freaking thing as the 50-center. And so what these other companies are is they're the upsell, pay $2 for the burger and make yourself feel good about that. You're getting the same result. So that's why it's so dirt cheap.
Well, think about how much it would cost. So if an athlete went to a company and said, I'd like you to just do my highlight tape, okay? Like rearrange my clips, make it fancy. That would be $500 to $1,000 just to do that, okay? We're doing a voiceover analysis and talking about what we see on film from two experts, and they're paying a year-long stuff where we're doing multiple videos over, on these athletes. So really, the value is thousands and thousands of dollars. Not even talking about just our time. I'm just talking about what it would cost if they contract. Go contract with somebody. Ask somebody to produce a video for you and make it fancy, and see what they come back from a price standpoint. It's just, and what you're getting, and the great thing is the feedback I'm getting from the coaches that do talk to me, they watch the videos because we spoon fed for them what we see, right? We're actually talking about what we see. So I think the beauty of it is, you literally, instead of having to watch the film and say, okay, what do I see here? What do I see here? What do I see here? You can watch the film and say this as a coach. I agree or I disagree on what Dave or Mike is saying. And I think that makes you think about the things you're seeing as a coach. Okay, I agree with him on this. I disagree with him on this. And that allows me to place that player into a bucket, right? So for players who don't know, the coaches have a board, right? The first step is to get on that board. The second step is to move up that board, right? Most of these kids don't even realize they're not on the board. They're not even on the board.
They don't exist. They're invisible.
They're invisible. You got to get on the board first. And that's the Warner thing is what we're talking about. The first steps were to get them on the board, right? Then once you get on the board, now you start getting coaches reaching out, maybe sending letters or whatever. Interest, come to my junior day. Now you're on the board. You may be down the board, but you're on the board. More videos come out. They see you doing some stuff. You also, I've noticed with the players, they start to get it. Chase Enlow is my good example because he does a great job of filming almost all of his stuff. You know what I mean? So because he films it now, our job becomes even better because now we can take things we're seeing and I'm like, I can point out Chase running a route here in my next video because he puts out his own content and we retweet his content, right? So those are the things that are very helpful. And I use him as an example because I think he's one of the kids who do a really nice job of periodically putting stuff out there on his own, right? And that coupled with what we're doing, we're retweeting that. That's all part of it. And the retweet is all of a sudden, let's say you got 1,000 views on your video. Now you're getting 3,000 views on that video. It's all part of the process. And what you want coaches to make a decision, right? Do I move him up the board? Do I like him? Do I not think he should be on my board? And you want them to keep going through that process. And the more coaches that go through that process with you, the more likely you are to then have a guy that says, yes, this is a guy that I like, and this is why I like him. It helps them validate their own process, and it helps them to go through it. And they're not thinking about it in the way that I'm explaining it. But the easier you make the college coaches' processes to evaluate you, the better it is, the more likely you're going to get on the board, the more likely you have a chance to get recruited.
Yeah, it's like the lottery, man. I mean, you can always talk about what the Powerball is and how much it's worth, but if you don't buy a ticket, you can never win it. Now, the chances of you winning it are very slim, but somebody wins it. And it's the same thing with, sports gambling or the casino or any sort of gamble, any sort of risk you take. Asking a girl out, like, you could like a girl. If you don't ask her out, she doesn't know you exist. She doesn't know you're interested. There might be rejection. We could put up a film on a kid and a coach might look at it and say, well, this kid ain't for me. He's off my list. But you were seen, and the more you're seen, say 9 coaches say you're not for me. One could say you kind of maybe are. Let's get him to camp. Let's see him in person. It's a numbers game. You got to get out there to as many people as possible. The people who buy 1,000 lottery tickets have a better opportunity to win percentage-wise than the ones who buy one. And the ones who don't buy any are never going to win and never will reap the benefits. So that's what it is. It's an investment. It's a cup of coffee. I mean, if you break it out $1,000, I don't have the math in front of me, but you break it out $1,000 over 365 days. It's like, Starbucks, man. And
no,
if
it's
you're
not.
going to
It's
get,
less. Dunkin'
it's
Donuts,
less.
70. It's like
So if you're a parent, and you're going and getting a coffee every morning and a donut, great. You should. Coffee's life. But this is too expensive. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, and again, it takes a lot of conversation, takes a connection. Nobody's just going to line up and click the link and sign up. But I will tell you this, I had a parent reach out to me recently, and they didn't want this social promotion. They wanted actual consultation services. Okay. What that entails is me promoting their son, me reaching out to coaches on their behalf, and giving them advice on the recruiting process. My minimum consultation fee is $3,000 a month, minimum, and I won't lock in for less than 3 months. Period. And even that is an absolute bargain. And that's just this is so much better than that and so much cheaper than that. And so these companies that you're paying $3,000 a month for that are similar to the consultation fee that I have, which I don't do for individuals, by the way. I do it for companies, that say they're going to reach out to schools for you and they're going to give you advice on this, that, and the other. That's great. If you want to pay $36,000 a year to somebody to say they're going to do that for you, I guarantee you're going to get the same results as us for $1,000 a year, because really all it is, the coaches aren't going to make a decision. If I do a voiceover on a kid, Cyrus Abud, the linebacker from Florida, if I do something on him, right, and I talk about his, he's instinctual, he reads the play well, he's a hustler, coaches are going to see that. They're going to do their own evaluations. There's nobody on. The only people who don't do their own evaluations, sadly, in this industry are the recruiting websites. They don't do their own evaluations. Crazy. It's like, oh, this kid's got Ohio State offer, 4 stars, maybe 5. That but coaches, when they're handing out full scholarships and they have 25 spots to fill, and even less now with the portal, they're going to be very picky and selective about who they go on. So they're going to look at this and they're going to say, well, who is this kid? And to your point, I agree, I disagree. It doesn't matter. They're going to first of all say, who is he? I didn't know he existed. Secondly, what's his height and weight? Let's get some measurables on him if we can. If we can't get good measurables on him and we're interested based on his film, let's get him on campus. Let's see him in person. Let's get him to a summer camp. Let's do something with him, something. And that's not going to happen unless you have this type of promotion. So I like the voiceover analysis part of it, because it allows me to sort of see the strengths of the kids. And before, evaluating the DeAnthony Arnett's of the world, or the Odell Beckham Juniors of the world, or all those 4 or 5-star kids of the world, that was fun. But now I get to see like the kids that have no interest, and I have to see, well, Bubba Grayson's an example. Like, why was there no interest here? He's not the tallest or longest offensive lineman. He's not going to like be a measurable kid at the combine that like wows everybody with his wingspan. And he's an interior guy. He's not a tackle, but man, he can move. He can pull. He's got good feet. He's athletic. Nobody knew about this kid really, and now they do. So that's the fun part. But coaches will take what we say and they make their own personal evaluations, but they're never going to do that if you don't exist. So right now, anybody we're talking to here doesn't have a lot of interest, has like 200 Twitter followers. You don't exist. You're invisible. And the only way to get visible is to, be socially promoted.
No, the Bubba Grace thing is a great example. Like when you get, so, everybody has their huddle links and the coaches are perusing stuff and it says 6'3", 2, I don't know what it was, 285, 290. And what happens is you get people can get put in buckets, right? So he's not a giant. He's definitely good enough size, but he's not a giant. So you from an evaluation standpoint, you're like, I'll get around to him. But now when you go watch his film, and we put it out there so many times on him, you see the way he punishes people. You see the way he does things at camps where he punishes his feet. His arm length for his height is excellent. His finishing capability is excellent, right? And by pointing it out and putting it out there so it's in front of guys over and over again, now you're like, you know what? Listen, this guy's a guard, but I need to look at him and the way he moves. This is a guy that is the Division I guy, and that's why he's picking up offers, and he's gonna pick up more and more. Like immediately the first few clips he jumps off of you, and how he likes to finish, right? And I think that is a thing that happens again and again. I'm seeing with prospects is that, like, yes, if a guy is 6'7", they're going to take a look at him if it comes across their desk. But when you're in the height that they have a lot of guys on their roster with that height, they're looking first for something exceptionally that stands out, and then they're going to get to you. But what happens is, in the normal course of the process, they may not actually get to you. Now they're going to get to you. Now they're going to get a chance to get a look at you because we're pointing this out. More guys are seeing it and they're saying, "Oh man, let's take a look at this guy now, and let's get him to our campus now, so we see if we really like him." And then that's how do offers come about? That's how offers come about. They do have to build relationships with you, and that's why this thing over time is such an important thing. You do have the instances where once in a while, like, hey, we've hit a slam dunk once in a while on guys where things have happened fast, right? But for the most part, it is a process, and that process over time is about building that relationship with those coaches, and this is part of what helps to build that relationship, so then he can then ask about you. You can then get on campus. You then can build that relationship. They see the clips. They see you in a different light. And, obviously when you go to their camp or when you meet them on a junior day, those are all things that have a huge impact, but that's all part of the process. And that's what I love about it, because it puts a face to a name with everything. It puts a familiar face, me and you, to a lot of these kids' films. So when they see it, they can evaluate it for them for the appropriate level that they're at.
And it creates a little bit of buzz, even if it's just the slightest little vibration of buzz.
Right.
So, a kid like Cash Ferris, the kid from Arkansas, like he's getting these camp invites. Everybody gets camp invites. Team camps, of course, as you know, I mean, it's a big moneymaker. So if you go to a camp, with your team, you're one of that, team. And so it's not really an individual camp that there's no buzz about you unless you're one of the better players on that team and you're on the radar already, and then you don't need us. But if you are, a guy who's not, on the radar, if you don't have any buzz or whatever, you have a name. So when you come to the camp, they're gonna watch you a little bit extra. I'm not gonna say they're gonna sit there and use all their time at a summer camp to evaluate you personally, but you might be put into a slightly higher group than you would normally if you weren't known. And that allows you to have an opportunity to stand out in a bigger, more talented pool. There's groupings in college camps. We all know it. Maybe people, the person, the average parent may not know it or whatever, but they're putting you and they're lumping you. So your kid can hustle all day long. He can go to a 4-day camp, pay a ton of money to go to a college camp, hustle all day long, sweat like crazy. And of course, at these camps, you've got the school that's hosting it, and then you got the FCS level coaches that are there assisting and evaluating as well. If he's not in the right group, he's not going to be noticed. Doesn't matter. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. So you got to get in the right group too. And the only way to get in the right group is to have a little bit of buzz. Even if you're not good enough, even if you're like, let's say Ferris goes to Arkansas's camp, and let's say he's not their cup of tea as far as a Power 5 player. He's going to get put in a higher group anyways, because now he's got a name. And then they're going to evaluate. But in that higher group, guess who else is evaluating the higher group? The FCS coaches. People gravitate. I've been to summer camps for 25 plus years. Coaches evaluate. People gravitate towards certain groups. The first question I asked at a camp when I went there, whether it was, a local camp up here at BC or Rutgers or, Syracuse or whatever, UConn, or if it was a national camp at LSU or Tennessee or whatever, the first question I asked to the recruiting director, where's the A group? Where are they? What field are they on? And then he would tell me, and I wouldn't deviate from that field. I wouldn't leave it. There's no point for me to go to the B and C and D groups. And I was there to scout 4 and 5 stars, but also there to find freshmen that I didn't know about that weren't on my radar. But that's where I'm going. And guess where the coaches are going? They're going to that group as well. And the only way to get into that group is to have a name and a buzz. And that's what we provide, is that buzz. Now, you got to be good. You can go there and suck, and no one's going to care. Or you can go there and surprise people, but you got to get there. So as invisible as you are without this program, even with this program, you got to have a little buzz. So if you go from invisible to visible, and then you go from no buzz to buzz, you might get into that group. And then if you're in that group and you perform well that day, you might get into a different group. So it's all about that slow little incremental changes that can occur in the recruiting process that change everything, absolutely everything. And I don't think people know. I don't think people know their kids are invisible. I think they DM coaches and email coaches. I think they send their film out and they think people are watching it. They're not. I don't think people know that there's tier groups at college camps. There's tier groups at these other camps. I ran camps. Well, helped, and I didn't run them. I filled camps, let's put it this way, for 15 years. We knew who the best players were, and we put them against each other because that's what we wanted to see. And we didn't publicly say that. We didn't say, come to this camp, we're going to put you in the B list, and you're not going to be in the A. But that's what you do. You just naturally put better players with better players, and you want to be one of those guys that gets put up with better players.
There's no doubt. And the reason why guys don't deviate from the A group is if for some reason somebody does something extreme in another group, they just bring them over to the A group. So you want to be in the A group.
They'll pull them over.
Yeah, they'll just pull them over. You don't ever have to deviate from it. And who gets pulled over, just in case people are listening and trying to figure that out. If you are 6'7", 6'6" lineman, and you're over in, I don't know, the other groups and you're doing well, they're going to bring you over to the A group. If you run a 4.4540 and you're in another group, they're going to bring you over to A group. So most of you don't fall into that category. So that's what becomes very difficult to move from those other groups if you're not one of those two categories, right? To get into the A group. So it's important to be in it from the get-go, because that really is a lottery if you're not in the A group, right? You really literally have to blast the grade 40 or literally be a giant, and that's the only way you get moved over.
Yeah, and we got a couple of those. I mean, Xander's one of them.
Yeah.
He's a physically, you look at him and then you see him move, he'll be pulled over the A group. But still, I mean, the fact that Xander started with us and started getting followed by, particular coaches and stuff like that. Now, if he goes to a camp, he's going to get not just the FCS coaches looking at him, but the actual, Power 5 assistant coach at his position is going to be looking at him. Hill Greenlee in Texas, 6'7", 290. He's a kid who'd probably start off in a C or B group, and then they'll see him and they'll be like, okay, let's move him over to A. Now, he does that. He's got a lot of JV stuff. He doesn't have a lot of varsity stuff, but he's physically imposing enough to be pulled over there. But how do you get invited to those camps? That's the other thing too. Like, again, it's really hard to be noticed, because the other part about it too is, like, all these camps aren't done in one space. You ran the Winterfest under the bubble. You go to a college camp and you're going to have some kids out on the softball field, some kids out on the baseball field, some kids on the practice field, some kids on the actual stadium turf. These are different locations. So if a kid's on the softball field and he's in a B group and he stands out, doesn't matter. He might not get pulled over, because it's not like you can pull him over. Like at ours, at the bubble, a kid's 40 yards away, you could pull him over. If he's 2 fields over, and I've been to a billion camps, every campus, you can name it. Every campus runs camps on multiple fields. So if a kid's really good and he's, 250 or 300 yards away on the softball field or on the practice field, he may be great, but he may stay over there. He may never get to the A group, just because they're not going to pull him over, because pulling him over involves a big, big process. So even if you're good enough, a Hill Greenlee could be 6'7", 290, show up. He's on the softball field, which is, a quarter mile away from the actual field. Doesn't matter how big he is. They're not going to pull him over. So there's a lot of little nuances that go into it. The easiest thing is to be known. That's it. If you're not known, you have very little chance. And most of our kids are not known when we get them. And then they become known to an extent, and then things can happen for them.
There's no doubt.
I'm going to let you riff. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Well, I think maybe we should wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up then. Good. Yeah, I'm done.
Let's wrap it up, because I think we covered most of the stuff. I mean, the spring ball stuff is really just beginning. So let's, obviously
let's go UConn, right? Go UConn.
Go UConn tonight.
They're going to kill them.
I agree with you. And but let's wrap it up. myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo. And I think honestly, we nailed it. This was almost like the video that we should take and show everybody, because it really explained it really well, and the benefits of it. And if you have questions, reach out to me or Mike on Twitter. We will have a dialogue with you about it. We want, this is not a sale to us where we're like, oh, thank you for getting the sale. We want to make sure you're comfortable with the process. You're comfortable with what's going to happen, and then we'll get you on board. So please, I'm at Coach Schuman. Mike's at M
Farrell Sports. Yep.
All right. Until next time, we'll cut off. I'll let him go. We'll see you next Monday. All right.